We've just had a gameplay deep dive released for F124, which is 13 minutes long. If you want to watch engine sounds, or listen to engine sounds more like, this is not the video for you. Link down below to the original video. For this one, we're going to basically break down the whole thing, watching it in real time and pointing out a few things I noticed. So guys, like the video and subscribe for more. Also on screen in the top right link, you're going to have the previous video regarding the career mode deep dive, which is the main thing of this year's game. So there's a lot of spicy stuff in there, guys. So we're going to jump into some gameplay analysis. I'm going to basically give my live thoughts as we run through it in real time, and I'll stop for certain things I want to talk about and discuss. So we have multiple gameplay shown at different circuits. Now I want to preface and start the video by saying I have not played F124 at all. I've not played the beta, I've not played an early version, I've done nothing. So I have no thoughts at this time on the handling. I'm not going to bash it, I'm not going to praise it when I haven't done a single lap on it. I think we've all seen the feedback that's out there publicly, and it isn't good. Now it does turn out that the initial beta was actually the wrong version, because there was the wrong, whatever version of the handling they had, it was the wrong one, and it wasn't the most up-to-date one. So for the next beta, beta 2, which I believe is arriving soon, we should get our first proper look, feel, and feedback on F124, and that is going to be essentially a clean slate. So big pressure on Codemasters EA to deliver, fix that handling, and hopefully this new baseline works well. With that out of the way, let's talk about the gameplay. So we have a McLaren, I'm going to assume it might be Lando Norris, going through the new Spa circuit. Spa is one of the tracks shown in this, along with another few circuits. So Silverstone is also shown, Monaco is also shown, Qatar and Shanghai. No footage of Jeddah, which is the other fourth circuit which has been updated, but no footage of that in this one. So we now switch to some chase cam view, which, no comment. You can talk about the sounds if you want to, but every camera has different sounds, and the chase cam, I don't use it, so I don't know what a chase cam should sound like. I will mention, in the cockpit view before, I felt like the sounds were really good. Now, these sounds, you have to go into the settings on F123 or 24 and switch your audio to driver, the audio mix, which by default I think is on broadcast. I also have driver, so I have this same audio, and it sounds similar to 23, but obviously with a slight evolution for the engines. Personally, I'm not a die-hard engine sounds guy. Like, I like V10s and V8s. I don't really care if the V6 sounds good or bad. It doesn't really bother me. But overall, they sound pretty decent. As good as they're going to sound on a Codemasters EA game, without getting into too much detail. And I did like how the McLaren sounded from onboard. The Ferrari also sounds very nice from onboard. The kind of turbo whistle, the hiss, is very noticeable, which I really like, which we'll get into in a minute in Shanghai. But yeah, we get our first proper look here at Spa, and I want to focus on the surroundings and the circuit. Now, the first thing I noticed, elevation change seems to be really noticeable. Like, you can really tell there's some real big elevation change here, whereas before it felt a bit flat. However, what they have made a bit flat is the curbs. The curbs look a lot flatter. The general road looks a lot smoother and flatter, less bumpy, and it just seems like a better driving experience, for you, for me, the player. And of course, all the updated sponsors, all the track exterior elements, such as the runoffs with all that gravel. Now you can see there on the exit of the Stavlo. We've got, of course, all the painted runoffs at the bus stop, Eau Rouge, Raidillon, and just generally bringing this track finally, after like 10 years of wanting it, to finally bring this track up to date, up to scratch. You can see here visually a big update in the bus stop chicane. And yeah, there is one thing I want to note from this, which is handling related, so I'm not going to go into it too much. I think all of this gameplay, all of it, the whole trailer, is an AI driver, not an actual person, because there's one bit here which I think is quite telling and scary. So out of this corner, if you watch the throttle trace in the bottom right here, where my mouse cursor is, Bottas is going to have a snap and instantly corrects it whilst being flat out on the throttle. So the AI, the way they work in F1 games, is they have traction control, coded into their system. So this is what tells me this is AI driving. Watch this. On the exit, keeps the foot in, quick snap correction, and job done. No dramas whatsoever. So yeah, there is the Spa gameplay. We now go to Monaco, and this is one of the tracks which has had a slight update which hasn't been mentioned, but much like Qatar and Jeddah, which are more visual updates. Last year was the first time we raced at Monaco or F1 raced at Monaco, and the guardrails have been completely covered in sponsorship. In the past, it was just a couple of sponsors, but it was generally all guardrail everywhere. But now you can see we've had that brought up to date, which I like for realism, but I don't like for driving, because for me, it's a massive visual trip. My eyes, like seeing all these colours and sponsors on the side of the track is really trippy. Like, there's enough going on at Monaco without having this. That aside, we get some onboard footage, which I really like the sound of the Red Bull. I think the onboard sounds, with the cockpit view and running the audio mix to driver, sounds really awesome on the McLaren and the Red Bull. There is one thing I want to talk about, which I'm not happy with and does bother me from all the wet gameplay you'll see in this footage. Whilst it is a good thing and it's a plus that going offline cools your tyres, it simulates some sort of realism in the wet conditions, the biggest drawback, which happens in the dry as well to be fair, but you can really notice it in the wet, the game is too fast. I mean, especially in the wet, it's way too quick. You should be really struggling for grip and
30 seconds left in the session,
trundling around many a time, and it just doesn't seem the case. Lock up into Mirabeau here for Piastri.
30 seconds left in the session.
Front right, there you go, gets off the ground. Might even be a lock up to be fair, might actually be the physics where the front right comes off the ground, which is nice to see. And he's chasing Sargent, currently a lap down as Perez has just lapped him, so whatever Piastri's done has had an absolute shock of a race. Other things to note, MFD, or the HUD, same system, but the actual speedometer dash in the center of the screen is different, slight adjustment. I don't really care. I'm not a big, I'm not going to hate on it. It looks fine. It looked fine last year. It looked fine the year before. I don't, a speedometer isn't going to make or break the game for me. So yeah, that's Monaco. You can see about the same, track exactly the same, but just a few visual external updates. We now go to Silverstone, which is a bit more what I wanted to talk about. So one thing I didn't realise, and what wasn't really translated well, which you'll see in this gameplay, is the level of elevation change, at Silverstone in F1 23. Now, I believe we had an update for Silverstone in F1 23 or 22. Very recently, there was a big overhaul, like they've done with Spa, for this track. So you'd think it should be up to scratch, but it's far from it. And you really get the idea watching this gameplay that this track is actually, or was in need of a big update. And much like Spa, the feeling of elevation is more noticeable. You can visually see the elevation difference, but at the same time the track seems to be smoother and the curbs look a lot flatter, which in turn means they're more drivable and you can attack them more. So yeah, overall good to see. And of course all the external elements, grandstands, have all been updated. So we get some gameplay here, the Williams. One thing I want to note from this, which you'll really notice later on, is this T-cam by default has camera movement on, which is fine. You can turn it off. But there's a new thing in this year's game which kind of goes hand to hand with the new kinematic suspension system, which is basically there's a lot more roll of the car, so the car will move. And the camera seems to move as well, which I don't like. So I really hope we can turn that off, because that will be extremely distracting. Other than that, let's talk about a few things of the physics we can notice in this final part of the gameplay. So look at the tyre temps in the bottom right. Extremely different to F1 23. Generally in past games, you'll get a bit more on one side or one tyre, but they'll usually stay balanced. Look at the front left here. It's just climbing and climbing and climbing in temperature. But usually around 105, you'd overheat on F1 23. But at the minute, the temps are staying under control. And look at this, 107, 108. And I think we're going to hit 109, and the tyres are not actually overheating, but there's a 13, 14 degree difference. So very interesting. Even on the rears, there's a 5-degree discrepancy. So a little look at the new physics and the way that's going to work with the tyres, flat spots, lockups, tyre wear, which is something I can't wait to try, because it's hard to tell in gameplay what you're looking for. Now, we had to Qatar, a gameplay here with one of the Haas cars, and from what I can see, I mean, from what I know and what I've been told, the actual track is basically the same. It's just all the exterior elements have been brought up to date. I think there's a few different curbs which they've kind of, revamped, redone, and just fleshed out a bit. But the actual asphalt is the same. The track layout is the same, which they got very good last year. They did a really excellent job in its first time on the game. But now the track just pops a lot more up to date. Visuals, colours, it's all there. And bonus point for actually sticking to the non-fog nighttime, which got patched midway through F123. There was a horrible, fog at night, which we've had for past games, and they actually patched it in the last game, and they've actually kept it off as well. So you can see the sky is just dark black, simple as, and a bit of a reflection from the LED lights. But here you can really see the visuals and the tracks really popping. Also, for the majority of this trailer, there's actual F124 cars in gameplay. Here is the actual Ferrari from onboard, so you're seeing these cars. Also, the engine sound here, if you watch the full thing with the engine sounds really good. I really like the Ferrari engine sound. The Alpine, I feel is hard to tell again because we're in chase cam, which I don't like because you don't get a proper
just 30 seconds left in the session.
Understanding, of what it sounds like. Now, one thing I want to note here is visually is a bit of a bug. If you look inside the rear wing, there's some weird reflections going on with the Alpine. I'm surprised they showed this footage. Just really flickery, really strange. Like, I understand it's night time and there's reflections, but this just seems a bit off. Other than that, visually, colours, very vibrant, very nice. But now let's go into more updates. So we go to Shanghai. Now this one is probably the most interesting of the bunch. We start off in the bottom right, and we have the tyre wear indicator, which means we are
careful, the tyres have deteriorated significantly at this point.
over 60%, and we lock up into the left-hander here, run deep, and now we're under pressure from Stroll and Alonso, out of DRS from Perez, but visually Sainz really struggling with the tyres. Now I want to pause this here really quickly to point out again these new physics and the way the game works. So we pull up tyre wear. Look at this. 75 left front, 22 left rear. It's nearly a ×4. Now, again, I don't think this is how the game works normally. The reason this has happened is because this AI, or this person driving, have locked up or flat spotted multiple times on the front left, and they've basically put a lot of wear on the tyre to the point where it's not recoverable. So that's kind of the reason why there's a big discrepancy. They've had a few lockups on the front right, but the rear tyres are generally what the tyre wear should be. Shanghai is a very front limited circuit as well, so I'd be keen to see how the tyre wear would look on a rear limited circuit, such as Singapore, for example, is a good example of, a traction hell where you need those rear tyres to really work for you. Either way, we get also our first glimpse at the new way Slipstream DRS works, dirty air, which, basically Slipstream is stronger, DRS is stronger, but so is dirty air to kind of counteract that feeling. So Stroll walks past on the straight, but not just that, Alonso gets the double toe, and Stroll, look at the AI here, by the way, very good racing. I generally don't have an issue with AI in F1 games. They're pretty good. I think they're one of the best in the business, and Stroll actually passes Sainz in defence from Alonso as Sainz in this case pits. Again, I think it's an AI because the driving is suspect, and also the pit entry here is absolutely perfect to the mile an hour, which means it's likely AI driving. So into the pits, not really much to tell here. The animation looks the same. I feel like the pit boxes are maybe angled a bit differently this year. I feel like they've actually angled them outwards, which is what they have in real life, because that way it's easier for the car to enter the pit box. But again, we don't have manual control, so it's irrelevant.
Back into the race.
Neither here or there.
Good job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that.
Interestingly, I don't know if it's a setting, but tyres are warm. They're not cold, which is what we have in the current.
For these tyres now, we want to finish the race on this compound.
The current game, we have cold tyres when we rejoin the track, so they're already up to temperature, which is interesting. And yeah, we get some more Shanghai gameplay here with Hamilton on board. Now, this sounds really interesting as well. The Mercedes has a bit of an overhaul with the sound. First glimpse here of the AI, so I'm assuming it's also an AI player driving. And there's two things to note here. One, how Norris gets out of the way, similar to 23 and 22, but not as bad. And also, if this is AI, Hamilton's putting a lunge on here from 3/10 back. I mean, look at this. Big, big, big yeet up the inside from Lewis to get past.
Nice overtake.
And actually clears him. So, quite telling. Lando, again, does get out of the way, but not a lot. Not like an F123. It's only a little bit, just so they can both make the corner. I mean, look, he turns out there, but he's still very much just leaving a car's width. You know, it's a full-on send from Hamilton's AI. So the AI may be going for super
Good job. Nice overtake.
wild dive bombs now, by the looks of it. Either way, the one thing we can't tell from this gameplay is the dirty air. It's hard to tell. Other than that, we switch to wet gameplay. And again, the AI making mistakes. You'll see Ricciardo have a big snap here through the banker. And again, I discussed it before. It's nice that you can go offline and cool your tyres. That's realistic, which is nice. But it's a shame that the wet is still too fast. Hamilton looking for the move here. Will he go for a dive bomb like on the previous clip we saw? Not quite a dive bomb, but a move up the inside. And to be fair, big snap for Ricciardo, but they keep it clean. And he out-tractions Lewis on the exit. So, good racing. Kind of to be expected. Bit of a sketchy last corner. And we're also going to get a glimpse at the first driver radio.
Cheers, guys. Good start. Obviously, I'll learn a bit from today. And so, yeah, we'll keep getting better, but not a bad first weekend. Congrats.
But there we go, guys. I noticed my webcam wasn't recording, so apologies for that midway through the video. Hopefully, though, the microphone is still picked up. Either way, those are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. It's hard to really have a baseline on what I think because I haven't actually driven the game. Hopefully I will over the next week or two at max, and I'll finally have an understanding of what we're looking at this year. Hopefully, you know, when I drive it and I get that first feeling on handling, I'll know if it's good or bad, and we'll know if we're in for a long 12 months or a short 12 months. Either way, I want your thoughts down below, guys, in the comments. Like the video, subscribe for more, and yeah, we'll see what's next. Either way, guys, that is it for the, I believe, the deep dives at this stage, and we'll now go into hopefully some more special content. I will have exclusive early access gameplay coming soon, guys, to the channel, so get subscribed for that. Like the video, like I said before, and as always, a big shout out to the channel members for supporting the content. Check out the 2 videos on screen, guys, if you haven't seen them, and yeah, that's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and it's goodbye from me.